My name is Dorothy Parvaz. I'm a journalist. I'm currently based in Doha, Qatar. I work for Al Jazeera. My Bellagio project is about the very immediate issue of how to get Iranians with multiple nationalities out of prison in Iran. And this is an immediate concern now along two tracks. First is the international track. Right now, Iran's in a position where the only Western countries that are even thinking about negotiating with them or talking to them are seeking bilateral talks solely on the nuclear issue. So human rights have fallen off the radar entirely. So there's that concern. The other is we're approaching an election coming up in June in Iran, the presidential election. And some of the rights groups I've spoken to indicate that executions are accelerated leading up to the elections. And we have a number of people who have been taken on and off death row in Iran, and so they're in a very precarious situation, and it's crucial to raise awareness on their cases now. So aside from, as a journalist, wanting to write about this stuff, because that's all I can do, I can just write about it and show people and raise awareness. For me personally, it's also important because in a very limited capacity, I know a little bit of what these men are going through. I spent 16 days in an Iranian prison, in Evin Prison and Detention Center, being interrogated on spying charges. And I was extraordinarily lucky, and I don't really know why I was released. I'm hoping it has something to do with the fact that I'm not actually a spy. But the truth is seldom actually a decent defense in that system. So I know a little bit of what it feels like to be sitting in that cell or in that interrogation room, having an American passport, a Canadian passport, an Iranian passport, and realizing how bad the diplomatic relations are between these countries and wondering how you're ever going to get out, because who's going to advocate on your behalf on the outside? And what these families must be going through. My family went through, again, a very relatively short-lived ordeal. But you know, today's a Persian New Year, actually. Right now is a vernal equinox. And the families of all these men are missing them desperately. And they've been in prison for a period of nearly 2 years at the low end to about 5 years. And one of them is facing a 19-and-a-half-year prison sentence. So this is not a small issue for me personally, and certainly as a humanitarian issue, or human rights issue, I should say. Being at Bellagio has been an absolute eye-opener in so many ways. Aside from just being a very quiet, peaceful place to work, a million miles and a million years away from a newsroom, which is this noisy, chaotic, wonderful ecosystem in and of itself, it's definitely where I would call home. But being here is definitely giving me the space to think about the project and these stories and these cases in a different way. And my fellow residents are not exactly your typical newsroom inhabitants. I mean, I have scientists, social scientists, artists, great legal minds. And when I did my presentation to let them know what I was working on, their questions and their suggestions and their critiques were amazing, things I would have never considered and things I'm almost positive I would have never heard from an editor in a newsroom. So being here has just completely blown sort of my approach to this thing wide open, and you know, I've just driven home the urgency actually of what I need to get done, because initially I was thinking of this as sort of like maybe a slightly longer term project, but it became quite clear from the conversations that I had with my fellow residents that, you know, I need to change my approach entirely, and I have, and it's been great.